You spent $60,000, maybe $65,000 on a brand new SUV. It's sitting in your driveway. It smells like new leather. The infotainment screen lights up like a spaceship dashboard. And you're thinking, finally, I made a solid investment. Then, 3 months in, the warning lights start. The screen freezes. The transmission hesitates. You're back at the dealership not once, but twice, 3 times. And suddenly, that new SUV feeling turns into something else entirely. Frustration, regret, and a repair bill you never saw coming. This is not a rare story. Consumer Reports' 2026 Annual Reliability Data, compiled from surveys covering hundreds of thousands of real vehicle owners across the United States, is showing something that every prospective SUV buyer needs to hear right now. Some of the newest, most hyped SUVs on the market are already failing their owners at an alarming rate. We're not talking about minor inconveniences. We're talking about patterns, repeated, documented, costly patterns that are showing up in owner reports month after month. So today we're breaking it all down. Based on the latest reliability scores, the frequency of owner complaints, and the severity of the mechanical and electronic problems being reported, here are the brand new SUVs that are already falling apart, ranked from concerning to downright alarming. Starting at number 5, and this one might surprise some people because it comes from a brand with a generally solid reputation. The issues here aren't catastrophic, but they are consistent, and consistency is exactly what makes them a red flag. Consumer Reports places this model in the below-average reliability tier for its first year on the market, and the owner complaints cluster around the same areas repeatedly. Infotainment crashes, the system locks up mid-drive, requires reboots, and in several reported cases, loses connectivity to the vehicle's driver assistance features while the car is moving. That last part is not a minor annoyance. That's a safety concern. There's a technical reason this keeps happening, and it matters. Modern SUVs are no longer just mechanical machines with some electronics bolted on. They are, increasingly, software platforms on wheels. The newest models are running tens of millions of lines of code, managing everything from adaptive cruise control to climate systems to the physical powertrain. When a manufacturer rushes a new platform to market, the software integration testing is often the first thing to get compressed. Bugs that should have been caught in development end up being discovered by the people who just handed over $60,000 at a dealership. The owners become the beta testers. The sensor dropouts, the frozen screens, the inconsistent camera feeds. These are textbook symptoms of software that wasn't fully ready when the vehicle shipped. These things may seem manageable on the surface. A screen reboot is annoying, not dangerous most of the time. But here's the thing about early electronic failures. They rarely stay isolated. They are frequently early indicators of deeper integration problems that get worse, not better, as the vehicle ages. Moving to number 4, and this is where the technology overload problem really starts to show itself. This SUV was marketed heavily on its advanced tech features, a next-generation infotainment suite, semi-autonomous driving capabilities, over-the-air software updates, the works. Consumer Reports data puts it in the poor reliability tier, and the owner complaints read like a checklist of everything that can go wrong when a vehicle tries to do too much, too soon. The infotainment system is the most commonly cited problem. Owners describe screens that go black without warning, navigation systems that lose position, and audio systems that cut out randomly. But the more serious complaints involve the driver assistance suite, lane-keeping systems that behave erratically, automatic emergency braking that triggers without cause, adaptive cruise control that disengages unexpectedly at highway speeds. Several owners describe disabling these features entirely because they trust them less than their own instincts. That is a damning statement about a system that was a central selling point of the vehicle. What's happening here is a problem the industry calls sensor fusion complexity. These vehicles rely on cameras, radar, LiDAR, and ultrasonic sensors, all feeding data simultaneously into a central processing system. Getting all of those inputs to communicate reliably across varying weather conditions, lighting environments, and road types is extraordinarily difficult. When a manufacturer introduces an entirely new platform with a new sensor architecture and a new software stack all at once, the probability of integration failures goes up dramatically. And that's exactly what buyers of this SUV are experiencing right now. Buyers often underestimate how disruptive this kind of fault becomes in everyday life. It's not just the inconvenience of a service appointment. It's the loss of confidence in the vehicle itself, the doubt that creeps in every time you merge onto the highway and wonder whether the system is going to behave. At number 3, the severity level goes up considerably, because we're no longer talking about screens and sensors. We're talking about the drivetrain. And drivetrain problems are a different category entirely. Consumer Reports flags this model with a particularly poor reliability score in powertrain-related categories, and the owner complaints are consistent and serious. Rough, unpredictable shifting from the transmission, delayed throttle response. Drivers press the accelerator, and there's a hesitation, sometimes a lurch, before the vehicle responds. Vibrations at highway speed. Unusual noises from beneath the vehicle that dealers have struggled to diagnose cleanly. The mechanical explanation involves the intersection of two trends colliding in a lot of new SUV platforms. First, manufacturers are pushing multi-speed automatic transmissions with 8, 9, 10 gear ratios, trying to maximize fuel efficiency. The more gears in a transmission, the more complex the calibration has to be. And poorly calibrated shift logic creates exactly the kind of rough, unpredictable behavior owners are reporting. Second, many of these SUVs are running hybridized powertrains, where the electric motor and the combustion engine have to coordinate seamlessly. When the software managing that coordination isn't well tuned, the result is drivetrain hesitation and vibration that feels fundamentally wrong, like the car can't decide what it wants to do. Here's what makes drivetrain problems more serious than electronic glitches. They are harder to fix, more expensive to repair, and more likely to result in premature component failure if left unaddressed. A software patch can sometimes resolve an infotainment bug overnight. Fixing a transmission calibration issue can require multiple dealership visits, extended teardowns, and in some cases, component replacement. For a vehicle that's only a few months old, that's not an acceptable outcome. Number 2 is the one that generates the most owner regret in Consumer Reports survey data. And regret is a word that shows up explicitly when you look at the owner satisfaction scores for this model. This SUV entered the market with substantial marketing investment, strong press reviews at launch, and high initial sales numbers. The reliability reality has not matched the launch narrative. Consumer Reports rates it in the well below average tier, and the owner complaint picture is broad. It's not one system failing. It's several. Recurring electrical faults top the list. Battery management issues in the hybrid system. Module failures that trigger warning lights across multiple vehicle systems simultaneously, with dealers sometimes unable to identify a clear root cause on the first visit, or even the second. Dashboard warning lights that appear, disappear, and reappear in patterns that owners describe as random and deeply unsettling. This is the specific cruelty of intermittent electrical faults. A problem that happens consistently is actually easier to diagnose and fix. A problem that comes and goes, that can't be reproduced on command in a service bay, leaves both the owner and the technician in a frustrating limbo. The vehicle gets checked out. Nothing is found. The owner drives home. And 2 days later, the warning light is back. This cycle can repeat for months. It erodes trust in the vehicle completely, and it explains why owner satisfaction scores for this model have declined sharply since launch. And yet, as bad as that is, the SUV sitting at number 1 is showing an even more serious reliability picture. The number 1 worst new SUV for reliability in 2026 carries the lowest reliability score in its segment by a meaningful margin. What makes this one particularly concerning is the range of problem categories involved. It's not a single system failing. It's engine and powertrain concerns, widespread electronic faults, and build quality complaints, all showing up in the same ownership cohort. Engine issues include rough running, unexpected shutdowns in certain driving conditions, and, in a subset of cases, premature oil consumption that owners weren't warned about at purchase. The electronic problems mirror what we've described in the other models, but at higher frequency, and with more reports of recurrence after dealer repairs. The build quality complaints add another dimension entirely. Panel gaps, interior trim fitment issues, wind noise from door seals, rattles from components that shouldn't be moving at all in a brand new vehicle. What ties all of this together is that this vehicle represents an entirely new platform for its manufacturer, not an update to an existing architecture, a ground-up redesign. And the data is showing in real time what the automotive industry has known for decades, but marketing departments consistently obscure. First-year models on entirely new platforms carry significantly elevated reliability risk. The manufacturing processes haven't been fully dialed in. The supplier relationships for new components are still being optimized. The software is still being refined through post-launch updates. And the owners who bought in the first production year are, functionally, funding that refinement process with their time, their money, and their patience now. It's worth stepping back for a moment and asking why this keeps happening. Because this isn't just a story about a few bad models. It's a pattern showing up across the industry right now. The automotive industry is in one of the most disruptive periods in its history. Manufacturers are simultaneously transitioning to electrified powertrains, building entirely new software architectures, reconfiguring global supply chains, and launching new models on compressed, competitive timelines. The result is that complexity is going up, while development time, in many cases, is going down. Software systems that would have had years of real-world testing in previous eras are now being validated in compressed timeframes and refined through over-the-air updates after the vehicles are already in customers' hands. It's a fundamentally different relationship between manufacturer and owner, one that transfers more of the validation risk onto the buyer. That context matters because it means this isn't a problem unique to a handful of careless manufacturers. It's a structural challenge affecting the entire industry, which also means that making smart, data-driven choices about which vehicles to buy and when has never been more important. So what should you actually buy if you're in the market for a reliable SUV right now? The good news is that the same Consumer Reports data that exposes the problem vehicles also highlights the ones that are getting it right. At the top of the reliability rankings, a small group of models stand out clearly. These are vehicles built on proven platforms, architectures that have been in production for several years and have had the time to mature. Their powertrains are well understood. Their software integration has been refined through multiple model year iterations, and the manufacturing processes behind them have been optimized. Owner satisfaction scores for these models are consistently high, and the complaint rates are low across every major system category. The key qualities that unite the most reliable SUVs right now are worth knowing. Proven powertrain architecture rather than first-generation technology. A manufacturer with a track record of prioritizing reliability over feature loading. And a model that's been on the market long enough to have worked through its early issues. These aren't necessarily the flashiest vehicles in the segment, and they may not have the longest feature list, but they are the ones that their owners are still happy with 2 and 3 years in. And when you're spending $60,000, that should matter a great deal. There's also a practical checklist that every SUV buyer should run through before signing anything. First, avoid the first model year of any completely new platform. If a manufacturer has just introduced an all-new vehicle from the ground up, let someone else be the first-year buyer. Wait for the second or third model year, when the known issues have been addressed. Second, check Consumer Reports reliability scores before you visit a dealership, not after. Third, look specifically at the complaint frequency and the categories involved. Engine and transmission problems are more serious than infotainment issues. Widespread multi-system complaints are a stronger warning signal than isolated reports. Fourth, talk to owners, not just reviewers. Forum communities and owner groups will often surface patterns that don't make it into formal reviews. The core message here is simple. The most expensive mistake you can make when buying a new SUV is ignoring the reliability data that already exists. Some of the vehicles we've talked about today were receiving glowing press coverage at launch. The reliability surveys tell a different story, one that only becomes visible after real owners have lived with these vehicles for months. The data is there. Consumer Reports collects it, organizes it, and publishes it precisely so that buyers can make informed decisions instead of expensive ones. Use it. Check the scores before you go to the dealership. Pay attention to which systems are failing and how often. And if you're looking at a brand new platform in its first production year, ask yourself, do you want to be the person who discovers what the problems are? Or the person who waited a year and bought the version where those problems had already been fixed? If you've already bought one of the SUVs showing reliability issues right now, or if you've experienced some of the problems we described today, drop a comment below. The more real owner data gets shared, the better informed every future buyer becomes. That's how this works, and that's exactly why this conversation matters.